I got a message on Monday night that I didn't expect that would ultimately change my life. And it's something that I believe we all experience. It's a decision fatigue, analysis by paralysis sort of weight on our shoulders. Now, the text message I received was an opportunity to join a Shark Tank retreat in Kansas City, Missouri, starting Tuesday night. And so I had a decision to make of if I should go or not. And after calling a business partner and was actually on the phone with my parents, I really wrestled with if it'd be beneficial to go or not. Now, one thing you absolutely need to keep in mind, and I'll go through this as the 5 key takeaways of the Shark Tank retreat, just so it felt like you were there. It's the idea that success doesn't always come from hard work, that relationship capital could ultimately give us the opportunities that we've been searching for or wouldn't even expect or couldn't receive on our own, that allow us to become greater and achieve more than we ever thought possible. So it's 11 p.m. at night on Monday. I booked the flight for Tuesday afternoon, thinking that this is an incredible opportunity and so unique that my not only current self, but actually my childhood self would be so excited to go. I watched Shark Tank growing up with my mom and really just enjoyed that whole experience. And I know Kevin Harrington well, especially as we've written a co-authored book together. So it'd be awesome to see him and his team again. So the first thing was getting on the plane. I ended up posting a selfie for this, and I thought this was an impactful moment of how actually uncomfortable it is to take selfies on planes because I didn't want to disturb anyone or be weird or anything like that. Luckily, no one noticed. I got to the hotel, was very excited to start, and here are the things that I learned from the dinner. Now, it was an incredible dinner. We went to 801 Chop House, and it was incredible to be with these business owners, former NFL players, and entrepreneurs and investors. It's an incredible spread of food and amazing conversations and great connection. We ended the first night well rested and prepared for the next day. Now, going to a Shark Tank retreat, you're probably thinking that you're either going to get capital, you're going to make connections, or you're going to ultimately change your business model or focus maybe some logistics within the business. And I found all three were true. So if you were wanting to go to a Shark Tank retreat, here are the three things that I really found for each of these. The first is the sense of capital. So as we went through a number of different exercises and ultimately ended up doing a hot seat portion where each business owner had the opportunity to basically pitch and have asks from the panel. The panel consisted of Kevin Harrington, his co-CEO Brandon T. Adams, and his co-CEO of Brian Harrington, to ultimately give feedback on these companies and where it was at. Now, from a investment funding sort of standpoint, it's always interesting to recognize like where the companies are at, where they're trying to go, and ultimately what the funds could be used for. So for you and your business, if you were to ask someone, either an investor or maybe a bank, one thing that I found when I was doing capital raising for a software company that I owned was to have the numbers dialed so that it was easily understood. So, for example, it would be something along the lines of, I'm in this industry, I solve this problem, we are currently experiencing this issue, and this is how we attract customers, this is how we retain customers, as well as what our CAC, so cost of acquisition, and our retention, so think lifetime value of customer or other sort of metrics, to really give a understanding of what the really business is, what it does, and the nuances and details of it. So that way, when you have the ask, there's less of those questions and you can use more of the time to get into the details as opposed to finalize the surface. Now, after sharing that kind of elevator pitch, the next thing you're going to do if you're asking for funding or some sort of investment is to have a good understanding of those metrics and what that story tells. For example, when I was raising funds, it was the idea that we are 90% confident that with every dollar that you invest, there would be at least a 30% return on your investment within 62 days. And then we had another play of 90, I believe it was 4 days, that ultimately gave us the opportunity to say, with an investment, here's your return, here's the timeline, and that's based on our cost of acquisition of this and our lifetime value of the customer. Obviously, if those two inputs change, that ultimately changes the investment as well as the timeline and the recoup period that could be received. This is beneficial because it really just breaks things down for an investor of what they are going to use funds for, what the inputs and outputs are, and if they would like to tweak or change those. That came to be as we then think of business model, where there were some examples of companies who had great margins, but ultimately Kevin specifically called out how the margin should be larger. One product, for example, was being sold at $34.99. He said, no, either make it 29 or 39. That in between was just too much. He found through testing and his experience to understand where that was be. Now, the other thing to think about as it relates to a business model is how many products you have. You should really be focusing on selling one or two extremely silly well, and then expanding into different offerings. Often companies in the $2 to $5 million space have several SKUs, numerous product lines, lots of complications, and ultimately a lot of chaos. You should really then be looking at, if you have those things, what sells the best and when, consolidate, potentially even doing seasonal, so that way you still have that sort of uniqueness and you're still trying and improving and creating connectedness with the customer with unique opportunities for them to purchase your products or services, but ultimately should really stick to a core line of products. So for you and your business, what does that look like? Do you have too many product offerings? Do you need to streamline? What would that streamline look like? How would you choose to eliminate, consolidate, or repurpose what you currently have? And that really would be looking at data as well as talking to customers to understand what they want going forward, not also just what they've experienced, because potentially their trends or their expectations or their desires, wants, or needs could have also changed as well. Now, before I share the last and final big takeaway for you as a business owner and what things you could implement from what I learned at the Shark Tank retreat, I want you to watch this video from Brandon T. Adams about what it takes to succeed, for what he's personally experienced and how he works with companies to get them to ultimately the next level. But first, it's implementing the mindset to get to the next level.
I will tell you, there's been times in my career after going after big things, I questioned if it was worth the price. Not being with my family, missing out on family things, sleeping out of my truck, almost going bankrupt, having my car repossessed, having my father not speak to me. I've seen, and I'm sure you have too, some of the worst things. But you got to ask yourself, what is the price you're willing to pay for your success? And are you willing to pay it? And if you want to have growth, if you do want to scale a company, it's not going to be easy. It's not easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it. And if you want an easy route, go work for somebody else. Don't.
Now, after Brandon T. Adams spoke, we had Nick Lowry go through his experience of being in the NFL and how that translates to being gritty, as well as aligning with your values and overcoming what you are currently experiencing to go where you're going.
As we grow through all of this technical scientific term shit, all of this pain, all of this rejection, if it forces us to dig deeper and say, what price will I pay? Then we get our values, our deepest core values aligned. It's so important.
Now that we have the right mindset, let's hone in on what we're actually doing at the Shark Tank retreat. We're ultimately looking to expand in terms of capital, meet people who are at our level or ultimately beyond our level, and then also implement these business practices that ultimately can transform not only our business, but our lives as well as founders or executives within the company. Now, it was absolutely amazing to meet some of these individuals who had anywhere from $1 million business up to maybe a $50+ million business, or definitely serial entrepreneurs who are then restarting, say, their third or fourth company. It was incredible to be around these people, both with their mindset, their personalities, and their experience. And we ended up having a great time, so many great connections, so glad to meet everyone, and really ended up solidifying the night at an amazing dinner, which I didn't take photos or videos of, but it was absolutely incredible spread, amazing violinist and pianist that was there just to solidify everything we've learned about and the connections that we made. And lastly, we ended up going to the casino in Kansas City. So that was kind of fun. I ended up taking a limo, just kind of being there, continuing the connection and the relationships that we were forming and building. Now, in the morning, had a nice little, goodbye to Kansas City, got some work done on the plane and back to Nashville. So ultimately an incredible experience in terms of what I was able to meet and learn and implement. So if you're a business owner and you're looking for really the next level, that being around a group of people, that feedback, as well as the intentions of what some of these relationships of the type of caliber people have, would highly recommend going to a Shark Tank retreat. Reach out to me if you'd like to talk more about it. There's a lot of specific details I didn't include in this video simply because they're more related to individuals who are looking to grow their business, not just individuals who are looking to learn about business. And the last thing that I will leave you with is this. It was incredibly fascinating to hear Kevin Harrington speak firsthand on his experience and how he found a need in the marketplace, fine-tuned it, and ultimately grew it, and gave an opportunity to create As Seen on TV, which he then sold, and then created this kind of As Seen on the internet sort of marketplace, which then became big brand ventures. He's helped at least over 20 companies receive a valuation of over $100 million, including companies like Celsius, the caffeinated energy supplement drink. And it's incredible to be around him and his team for how not only they know how to grow businesses, but what they could do to implement. And really also, they are looking for other companies to add to their portfolio and help them grow, either from a fractional level, from a consulting level, or even an opportunity for equity ownership where they could potentially 10x your business and operationalize a lot of things to really help you work more on the business than in the business. So if you're looking to learn more about Shark Tank Retreat, reach out to me. Happy to share more details about my experience, the types of companies that they work with, and the experience that they have really growing those companies. It's something that I really enjoy a conversation about, is growing companies, connecting with amazing people, and ultimately creating impact. Thanks for watching today's video. Be sure to check out another video about things that I'm passionate about, things I've done, and ultimately things that help your business as it relates to the income and growth, or even your personal finances as it relates to tax savings or growing your cash flow and your net worth.